Welcome to Detangle, where we untangle the complexities of life, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Kinjal Goel, a psychologist and a writer. Today we have with us eminent psychiatrist Dr. Harish Shetty. Dr. Shetty has spent decades working at the intersection of medicine, mind, and society. From clinical psychiatry to community mental health, disaster response, suicide prevention, and youth well-being, his work has consistently gone beyond the consulting room and way into the public domain. He has been a source of inspiration for me personally for many years. It's a true pleasure to have you on Detangle today, Dr. Shetty. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad. I have so many questions for you personally, also as a psychologist. I have so many questions for the time that you have taught me so much about ethics, about research, about mental well being. I can't wait to get into this conversation with you.
Likewise,
Um, Dr. Shetty, before we get into psychiatry, I really want to start with you personally. What drew you into the human mind and what made you choose psychiatry as your life's work?
he entered my classroom in the second MBBS
Hmm.
and he started speaking. He explained to me why each one of us should take up psychiatry. We need to decode the mysteries of the mind, said he. It's a young branch and it's a very important branch because it deals with the brain and the neuroendocrinological systems and the entire body. How the mind is defines how the body can be. His name was Dr. Vasant Mundra. And I fell for it. It was mesmerizing, but with a lot of substance, a lot of science, empirical science, and a nudge which was very strong. Then I met the late Dr. Charles Pinto
Hmm.
in a classroom. I met Dr. Vasant Mundra in the ward, the psychiatric ward. We had just 2 weeks of psychiatric ward where 4 days were the weekends, and we had only 11 days. I attended each one of them. Dr. Charles
Hmm.
Pinto said the same thing in a very different way, and my mind was set up to take up psychiatry after my third MBBS. I was initially interested in medicine because you have to deduce, and that extended to mental health because here also you have to deduce. I did not like surgery at all. I did not like anatomy. I liked physiology, and I could not put a thread inside a needle. And my love was how to deduce, how to understand, look at the mysteries. And that's why I took up psychiatry. And I'm very thankful to both of these great teachers. And when I am looking at an intern, I ask them, you should take up psychiatry. I still remember this boy. He took up psychiatry. His father came and scolded me. तुम क्या उसको पागलों के डॉक्टर बनाना चाहते हो? Do you want him
Hmm.
to make him a doctor of madmen? I kept quiet. But after 2 years, his father came and thanked me and he said, well, I'm very happy that my son took up psychiatry. He can really help a lot of people in my family and my extended family. And he also added, when he goes for a marriage, people surround him. The stigma is less, the shame is less, and people are willing to talk about mental health.
That is so heartwarming to know. I mean, you've come such a long way. You personally have witnessed psychiatry evolving over so many decades. But when you look back, Doc, I mean, what are the biggest shifts that you've seen in how mental health is understood and treated beyond the stigma?
I think in the 90s or the late 80s, there was a movement to really take patients from mental hospitals into families across the country. And
Hmm.
they wanted to see to it that mentally ill live in families and are treated. Dr. Narayana from Bangalore, Nimans, he was one of the pioneers, the same. He would invite patients and the families for lunch and then chat with them and explain to them the need for the patients to be in families. And that was a very big shift. And my petition on the same, in the Bombay High Court addressed the same issue where the mental hospital at Thane could send a lot of patients back to the families thanks to the Bombay High Court and thanks to all the others who worked with me in the petition. That was one. The second most important thing is that departments of psychiatry opened up in many in many medical institutes. I remember when I started psychiatry, we had 4 psychiatrists only in Madhya Pradesh, and now there are so many. So that shift was also very important. The third important shift was uh, doctors and psychologists started working together. Well, it is not only the medicines which can change the brain, but non-pharmacological approaches like psychological interventions, like a lot of social interventions could bring about some harmony inside the brain and help patients to recover, help patients to reintegrate in the society. Third was the Mental Health
Mm.
Act 87. I think it was a revolutionary act which was so important. And that act also looked at the financial rights of the patient, which has been ignored by the Mental Health Care Act 2017. Along with that, suicide has been decriminalized by the Mental Health Care Act 17. That was a very big shift in mental health. Learning
Right.
disability has been accepted as one of the disabilities which has to be addressed. And many Supreme Court petitions and petitions across the country looked at the rights of the mental, and that was very important. This Mental Health Care Act needs revision, and maybe time this will evolve across time, and things will change. Certain aspects of that has to be revised.
Lovely. These are all the beautiful changes that have come about and are helping people and society at large. But what do you still think remains deeply misunderstood? What two, three aspects of psychiatry and psychology are you still fighting to resolve?
Absolutely. I mean, number one, in five-star hospitals in my city of Mumbai, they don't
Hmm.
admit mentally ill patients, and those hospitals which are admitting have stopped. They
Oh,
are not aware of the Mental Health Care Act. They are not aware of the human rights of the mental ill. They are not aware that 1 out of 7 Indians are mentally ill. And if you operate an appendectomy or you admit one member of the family into an ICU, there could be somebody who's mentally ill. The family would need hospitalization. And this stigma, which is extremely strong among the elite, is one of the most important obstacles for mental intervention. That is one. Number two, mental health policy in corporates and organizations are missing. A lot of people who go and tell the CEO or the head of the institution that I have panic attack, I have depression, I had an episode of psychosis, are excluded, are removed from the institutes or from the corporates. And so there's no mental health policy. There's a mental health policy in the center, but not applied across the states. There's a suicide prevention policy in the center, but not applied across states. We are in the midst of a mental health epidemic. We are in the midst of a suicide epidemic, but we are only interested in looking at, is India the richest country in the world? Is the economy growing? But we can't have a rich country with bad mental health. So this also has to go hand in hand, and that is so important. Stigma and the pathways of care are issues. Well, I still remember 20 years back when I addressed a bunch of teachers across the city at a school in Sion. I asked, how many of you have attempted suicide? And many hands went up. That's the time I realized people are willing to disclose, and we are not asking the right questions. There's a lot of helplessness in the country. And all psychiatrists need to go to the municipal hospitals very close by. All psychologists would adopt a municipal hospital or a municipal school and help kids who are marginalized in these populations. And at least 3 months of MD training in psychiatry and 3 months in the training of masters in psychology should be in the community.
lovely. Doc, I've personally experienced your lectures. I have attended some of them myself, and I see that you use a lot of personal narratives and storytelling and public conversations to reduce stigma. But sometimes I feel like mainstream movies, TV, social media can work both ways. There are some movies which can really highlight mental ailments and bring awareness, but there is still so much going on that is bringing people down, that is increasing the stigma. What's your take on this?
Absolutely, in the sense, but Tare Zameen Par is equal to a
Hmm.
million workshops on
Hmm.
learning issues. The next film on Down syndrome also is equal to a million workshops. So there are a lot of films now which address mental health rationally and systematically, and that's a big thing. Social media is very important in the sense, though we are in the middle of a gadget epidemic and we need a movement against them because it has been proved that addiction to gadgets can cause depression, anxiety, and suicide. Vivek Murthy wrote a wonderful piece, Social Media and Youth. UNESCO also has said something about addiction and technology. And they have said 1 out of 3 countries are trying to control. You see what Australia did. France is
Lovely.
also on the way. But the issue is very different. And I would say Meta has been on the back seat because many states in America have filed federal court cases against them. Now, having said this, I would ask all people who are listening to this podcast, scientists, people of science, authors, journalists, and the layman. Social media is a journal of science for the common man. Social media can bring down governments, but social media can also improve awareness on mental health. Please post one positive story or one piece of information on mental health on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And that will go a long way in breaking the stigma and helping people access help. The pathways of care will be shortened and help seeking behavior will improve. So, again, I re emphasize social media is the science journal for the common man. They don't read uh, journal articles which experts have written. And this is something which we need to exploit. And we need to understand that people are on the media and we need to plug that space and not allow quacks to operate.
I think there was something in the news recently that I had read. A lot of social media platforms had come up with an idea that anybody talking about mental health should be asked to upload a certificate proving that they can actually talk about mental health publicly. I don't
I
think that
don't
ever
think
went
that
through.
I don't like that attitude.
Hmm.
Remember one thing. Matt Reed
Hmm.
was asked once, the co-founder of Netflix,
Hmm.
whom are you competing with? And he said, sleep. Social media is predatory. Social media is addictive. The withdrawal
Yes.
symptoms can be so bad. And you know what happened in a district in UP very recently? Regulations
Right.
don't work. Regulations don't work. So you can't provide addictive social media. It's like cocaine. It can cause depression, anxiety, and suicide. So governments should regulate it. I would say in India you need to ban Instagram and various platforms for kids under the age of 18. But at the same time, all adults who are listening to this podcast, don't bother who you are, but write a positive message or information which is rational about mental health once a week on Instagram and Facebook. That will be a great contribution because, again, I say that social media is also a journal of science for the common man.
Very well said. Doc, as a psychiatrist working closely with psychologists all the time, I want to understand how you see the relationship between the two disciplines evolving today.
It has to be equal. Not only psychologists, but physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, and
Hmm.
social workers. It has to be equal. I have been working with psychologists from day one. I still have at least 8 to 10 psychologists whom I refer and we work together. And sometimes psychologists do the maximum work. We do a little work when it is issue is very deeply embedded in therapy, which can help them. And sometimes we do a little more, and psychologists do a little less for certain cases. But on the whole, what is very important, the team is much better than an individual. As a patient suffering from major mental illness needs a psychologist to maintain his or her treatment and improvement. A patient suffering from trauma, from death, from grief, extended grief, or PTSD or many other illnesses, they need a psychologist much more than a psychiatrist. So we need to work as a team across all disciplines. And what is very important for all psychologists and psychiatrists and others, now is the time that we look east. We don't only rely on the West. Yes, CBT is good, REBT is good, but Swami Ramdas' Dasbal is also good. Yoga and Vipassana are the biggest contributions of India to the world. Well, yoga is practiced more in New York and in USA than in India in schools. And Vipassana has been converted into mindfulness across the world, and they've changed the name, but they use the same technique. So Gautam Buddha and Maharishi Patanjali are the greatest mental health professionals of all time. So as much as we look towards the West, we need to look at the East. I have done courses on REBT, CBT, EMDR, NLP, Gestalt. But at the same time, I use a yoga, Vipassana, stories from Indian mythology, and the Gita in my mental health field. And my colleagues also do the same. It's high time that we look at indigenous sciences, indigenous knowledge. The colonial impact on India has been so huge that we always look at the West. Let's start looking at the East also.
True. So, Doc, over the last few years, let's say over a decade or two, have you noticed a shift in what people are coming to you for? I mean, are today's struggles different in nature and how?
Absolutely, in the sense, I would say that normal life has been completely disrupted with the pace of globalization. What happens when you start running faster? You get disconnected. Your entire body is an orchestra which gets completely disturbed. You are sleep deprived. You work long hours. You travel long hours. Your families have become smaller. Your emotional contact time has gone down. Your family contact time has gone down. Your community contact time has gone down. The biggest illness on this earth as of now, especially in my country, which is
Hmm.
socioeconomic upheaval. So disconnection is the biggest illness, and which means it causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic, wanting to die. When I was in school and college, the word "sue" would not be suicide. Stress would not mean that you need to end your life. Stress means you need to cope. You need to get close to a family and get going. And what is so important is coping skills are poor. Available social support is poor. Yesterday, I met somebody who did an PhD in motherhood, and across all groups, it was a very serious PhD. Across all groups, what
Hmm.
she said was social support has gone down. So in the last 10 years, I see a lot of people in panic. I see a lot of
Hmm.
people anxious. I see a lot of people depressed. Every day in my practice, 3 to 5 people say that they want to end their lives. And stress between the space between stress and suicide has shrunk. And that I think is extremely important for us to understand. We need to look at very seriously, and we need to look at new answers to new problems. Every era has its problems, and we need to find answers which are specific to that era. We can't say during our time things were better. Things will always change, and we need to be smart enough. We need to listen to people. We need to also understand that every person who comes for help has wisdom, which we need to tap, and we need to collectively work in group. In India, we have to work with numbers. We need to work with groups. We can't work with individuals all the time because the number of psychiatrists and psychologists are less. And group work will be a very big impetus to really help and assist mental health issues which are prevalent now and today.
True. I think group therapy is beautiful. It is underrated, it is undertapped, but it works so well.
I would say not group therapies. Let's not give it a structure of therapy. Even
Hmm.
support group meetings are very useful. I still remember when I started Maitri, which unfortunately closed at the time of COVID. People would come and speak to me about symptoms in my clinic, but in the meeting they would talk about life. This was a support group, free support group for patients who are suffering from major mental illness, and we found 5 things which changed. Number one, there was zero suicides among all those who came to the support groups. Number two,
Wow.
they had minimal relapses, and if they had a relapse, the members of the support would rush and see to it that it's controlled. They would access help at that time. Number three, the family functioning improved. Number four, occupational functioning improved. Number five, the quality of life also improved. But there are adverse effects of support groups also. People who have been in support groups for a long time are sometimes insensitive to people who are new, who might say, what is schizophrenia? And they might be really indifferent hostile to the new members of the group. So we need to work around that. Support groups are an answer in India for all patients suffering from different forms of stress, distress, and disorder or disease. And now it's difficult to have support groups where they can access live. I think it should be online, and a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists should start support groups very consistently for different issues and different illness. Trauma, violence has also increased to a very great extent. Irritability is a symptom across the country. You beat up people on the roads, you beat up people inside families, you kill people, you lynch people, and that is something which is happening because our brains are stressed, support systems are less, and the pace of life is huge. Reconnection is an answer to disconnection. I tell all people staying in mohalla, slums, buildings, and towers that use festivals as a point of reconnection where health can improve and people will see social support and they will seek support. So even in WhatsApp groups, don't only wish people on anniversaries and birthdays. If you failed in the exam, if you have lost a job, start sharing, and that is very important. All organizations should have a mental health policy which is inclusive.
Fabulous. Doc, let me now bring you to something that has intrigued me and still intrigues me because there are no clear answers yet. ChatGPT has publicly acknowledged that a very large number of people are putting in questions to the bot about mental health. ChatGPT has clearly stated that they are not mental health platforms and that even the data that they are collecting may not be confidential. But despite that, people are talking to the bot, they are seeking the validation which comes easily. Now, this is not even a trained psychotherapy session, but it is on the rise. What is your take on it, and which direction do you think we're going in?
I think we cannot avoid ChatGPT and AI, and I feel see a lot of young people accessing ChatGPT and
Hmm.
and finding answers. And as long as it's not harmful, it's okay. You are Noah Harari, the famous author who wrote the book Homo Sapiens
Right.
and three more books.
Oh, yes. And
He
Nexus
said
now.
ChatGPT has no emotion.
Hmm.
There is no intimacy, and that cannot help in the long run, but it can help some people in the short run. I would like to give an example. ChatGPT the other day also gave answers of how to end their life, and and
Hmm.
and and India Mart, you have those things available. Somebody came to me and with a small vial of hemlock. Hemlock is a poison which the Greeks used to
Hmm.
kill thinkers, and he accessed it through Amazon. So the point
Oh.
is, let us understand that Amazon, if you type the substance which will help you to end your life, they give you the list. So ChatGPT, Amazon, AI, and other platforms are not completely safe. You know the case of the young man in America who committed suicide after he was on ChatGPT. So I would say
Yes.
human contact is important. For that, we need to make a range of professionals available. Like in medicine, you have a nurse, you have a ward boy, you have a resident doctor, you have an assistant professor, you have a consultant, you have the HOD. Similarly, in mental health, you need psychiatrists, psychologists, befrienders, mental health ambassadors, mental health support group members, and facilitators. Mental health is too important to be left alone to mental health professionals alone. You can't have PhD. You can't have the Western model of PhDs and MA and MD only to treat psychiatry or MBBS. I would say that we need to train people across all borders, across all hierarchies. Some will do little work of listening and allowing people to ventilate. Some would provide simple tools for them to really face in their life. Some would provide structured psychotherapy. Some would provide social support, and some would provide probably medicines, which are equally required. So you need to have a range. You need to have the model which Iran practiced for a long time, and it was very
Hmm.
successful.
So, Doc, tell me on a personal note, is there something that you wish somebody had taught you early on, which you did learn eventually, but you hope that somebody had taught you? And that's the advice you would give younger people now entering the mental health zone.
Absolutely. In fact, when I finished my psychiatry, I wanted to quit psychiatry.
Hmm.
Well, when I was young, I met good teachers. Dr. N.S. Vaya, who brought yoga into India, he was the first researcher in yoga and mental health. Dr. D.R. Dungaji, Dr. Dinsha Dungaji at KM, who made psychiatry and mental health mathematics. And he had the art and the science of psychiatry. I was impressed. But after I finished my MD, I was bored because I was not there really to actually give medicines and
Hmm.
provide symptomatic relief. I wanted to go beyond symptoms. So in 1992-93, there was an earthquake at Latur, and I packed my bags and went there. I worked there for almost 1 year, and I learned a lot from the people. And
Hmm.
I went to cure PTSD, but I learned exactly what happens after trauma, and I learned that stories from the community, cultural mechanisms from the community, the cultural intelligence is as important as my Western science. I still remember a village where a lot of women would not come out of the house And my techniques by psychiatrists did not work. One lady said, let's do haldi kumkum, and they all came out and they started grieving. In fact, one workshop which I conducted with Umakant Hundra, our teacher in Latur, with whom I worked, and he has been kind enough to help me to work across time. I lived in his house. We kept a Manaswastha Shibir at Killari.
Hmm.
Nobody came because Murari Bapu was taking a session on Ramayana, and there were hundreds and thousands.
Hmm.
So that's the time I learned that cultural competence for a psychiatrist is very important. And blending cultural stories into modern mental science is a must. That happened in Kandla, where I went and worked for a year with the victims of who were salt pan workers. Were so many of them, more than 3,000 were killed in the floods. And there, when I went and said, let's form a Manaswastya club, they said, we are not mad, we are not interested. And then they said they already have a group which meets for many reasons. And we penetrated the group. So penetrating existing systems where people meet in small
Hmm.
numbers or large numbers, and locating mental health is the skill, should be the skill of a psychiatrist or a psychologist or any mental health professional. I still remember the story. A family complained because they said Dr. Harish Shetty is making me cry because of the loss of my family member. I had kept a photo of my lost family member inside a bag. I did not want to look at it. It was avoidance in my science. And he made me cry. I thought it was a compliment. And then I saw that they had put all the pictures above the picture of gods, and they deified those people whom they have lost. Understanding the grieving process of different communities is very important. And they also said that they would want to build small monuments. And we found that with the group where there was intervention, they used the compensation money for their lives. But in the group where intervention was not there, or we could not really reach out, we found that the compensation money was used to validate rumors, to look at the survivors if they're alive in Karachi, because Kutch and Karachi are very close by. And they did all sorts of religious rituals which were useless. So intervention, cultural and modern science, when it's married, helps people in disaster. So I learned that listening to people and understanding the wisdom of the people, in spite of the fact that if they're ill, they're sick, or they're bad, is extremely important. Cultural competence is very important for all mental health professionals. You have to be like Patch Adams, but you need to know the gods of different communities, the slogans of different communities. Jai Jinendra, Jai Sri Krishna, Allah Hafiz, and all the things, and the gods of the Kolis who really fetch us fish from the sea. And they pray to Gora, Kumbar, and Kandoba. So, cultural competence is the key for every professional who is helping groups or who are helping individuals. Rapport is built when you are culturally competent.
Wow, that actually feels like I just got a masterclass in disaster management and learning what we can do to help the world. But let me take you into a more personal zone now, Doc. Let me ask you a few rapid fire questions. No second thoughts, answer real quick. What's your favorite book?
Jonathan Livingston, The Seagull.
Hmm. Your favorite movie character?
Uh, Amir Khan.
Okay. Your biggest pet peeve, something that always irritates you.
Obsessive people who have OCPD.
Okay. All right. The one thing that you believed in but no longer do.
Well, I felt that every human being is fantastic, but then I realized that people come in different shades and colors, and these shades and colors change. So we need to accept people as they are and learn from each one of them.
Okay. Your most prized possession.
My books.
Lovely. Doc, let me now ask you the question that I love the most on my show. Over all these 5 seasons, I have asked this question to every guest, and I love collecting the answers.
Tell
We're
me.
all aware of a physical first aid box, right? Where we keep our band aids, painkillers,
Yeah, yeah,
antiseptic,
yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what if you personally were to create a mental first aid box, for those days when you're feeling emotionally run down?
My safe space, my school friends. and my family. Number two, just picking up a book. Number
Okay.
three, using a lot of expletives and sharing from the bottom of my heart to be
Okay.
with people whom I love. And number five, going for a long walk and looking at the
Lovely.
sky. The five elements which is prescribed by our history: water, fire, sky, mati, that is the earth,
Hmm.
and the air is something which is a long bath, shower bath under your head eases me
Hmm.
to a great extent.
Super. That's a fantastic mental first aid box. And before we come to a close and have our closing remarks, Doc, is there a question that you have for me as a psychologist or as a podcast host?
So, what did you learn from all the podcasts? Three lines.
Wow, I've learned a lot actually. I've learned that there is nothing called passion which is served to you on a platter. I have been able to speak to people who have been successful in very different fields of work and define success in very different ways. But nobody woke up one day with a eureka moment saying, oh, this is my calling. No, people started working hard and then they started getting better at what they do. So hard work always trumps talent, is the one thing that I've learned through the podcast.
Thank you, and that's so apt for all of us. We evolve, and like what Virat said, Virat Kohli was also one of my favorite sportsmen.
Hmm.
मैं रोज बेहतर बनने का कोशिश करता हूँ.
Yeah.
And that's the best message which I've heard from somebody who practiced it across his life.
True. And actually, there are so many people, Doc, who define success in very, very different ways. We have a very small definition of success as we are growing up. But then you realize, for example, in the same season, I have somebody who works with elephants and has created an AI to help those elephants move away from establishments where humans are living. They are trying to mitigate the human animal conflict in a very practical, intelligent way. And I said, this is so different, and this is not something she one day woke up and realized she wanted to do.
For me, success is peace. And just do your best, as Bhagavad Gita says, what happens, happens. And I may not be always right. I may not be doing everything correct. I might make mistakes which I should not repeat later.
True. Actually, when we started this conversation, Doc, I was asking myself which angle this is going to take. Will this be for mental health professionals or will this be for lay people? But as we've come towards the end of the conversation, I realized that this is for everyone. If a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or even an aspiring psychologist or psychiatrist is listening to it, they know which directions they can take, they know which way they need to go. And if lay people are listening to this, they know that mental health is not just behind the desk. Mental health is everywhere. Everybody can take part in it. Everybody can add to it. Everybody should add to it. So this has been interesting in many more ways than we expected. But it's been
I would
amazing.
like to say something here. We need to be people based mental health professionals and not patient based mental health professionals. People come first, patients come next.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been tremendous listening to you. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot of things back from this. I'm sure a lot of people will get inspired to do something in the mental health space thanks to the little tips that you've given us today. I'm so grateful, Doc, for your time. I know it's been hard for you, but thank you so much. And I really hope that this reaches a really, really vast audience.
Thank you.